The sun dips low over Central Park, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, as if the heavens themselves are holding their breath. A crowd gathers, their faces alight with joy, their whispers mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. At the center of it all stands Christine, her white gown shimmering like a dream woven from starlight, her eyes locked on Henry, who gazes back with a love so fierce it could stop time. They're surrounded by friends, family, strangers even, all drawn to this moment, a wedding that feels like the culmination of a miracle. Christine's hand trembles as she slides a ring onto Henry's finger, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "I promise to love you," she says, "through every storm, every doubt, every moment we thought we'd lost." Henry's eyes glisten, and he pulls her close, his vow a whisper meant only for her, "You saved me, Christine. And I'll spend my life proving I'm worthy of you." The crowd erupts, but for them, the world is silent, just two hearts beating as one. It's perfect. It's eternal. But how did they get here? How did a poor girl with a camera and a broken heart find herself in the arms of a man who once thought love was a luxury he couldn't afford? This isn't where their story begins. No, to understand this moment, we have to go back, not to the start, but to the fragments of their lives that led to this day, unraveling the choices, the pain, the fleeting glances that wove their fates together. As the music swells and the guests raise their glasses, Christine's mind drifts, her eyes catching the glint of a camera lens in the crowd. It reminds her of a time when she was invisible, when her dreams were tucked away in a battered camera case, when she thought love was as unreachable as the stars. She thinks of a bench in this very park, of a man crying alone, of the moment she chose to stop and offer him a tissue. She didn't know then that he was Henry Lancaster, CEO of a corporate empire, a man whose world had just shattered. She didn't know that her small act of kindness would change everything. But as she stands here, her hand in his, she knows every step of their journey was worth it. Let's step back, not to that bench just yet, but to a moment closer to this one, when their love was no longer a question but a promise. It was just weeks ago, in a cozy apartment overlooking the city, where boxes were stacked high, and the air smelled of fresh paint. Christine and Henry stood together, signing a lease, their laughter echoing off bare walls. They were building a life, not just a home, and every decision felt like a vow. Henry, once tethered to boardrooms and private jets, was learning to find joy in the mundane, carrying boxes, arguing over where to hang Christine's photographs, stealing kisses between trips to the moving truck. Christine, who'd spent years scraping by, felt the weight of her past lift with every box she unpacked. She'd always been afraid to hope for too much, but with Henry, hope wasn't a risk, it was a certainty. They danced in the empty living room, no music, just the rhythm of their shared dreams. But even then, there were shadows. Henry's phone buzzed with emails about a potential relocation to London, a corporate move that could upend everything. Christine's fingers tightened around her camera, her old fears whispering that nothing this good could last. How did they overcome those doubts? Let's go further back, to a night when their worlds collided in a way neither expected. It was at a charity gala, months before the apartment, before the wedding plans. The room was a sea of glittering gowns and polished smiles, but Christine stood out, not because of wealth, but because of her art. Her photographs lined the walls, raw and honest, capturing moments of humanity that made even the wealthiest guests pause. Henry, there as the event's benefactor, couldn't take his eyes off her work, or her. She was different, not chasing his status or his name, but pouring her soul into every frame. When they spoke, it was electric, like a spark reigniting a fire long thought extinguished. "Your photos," he said, his voice low, "they make me feel like I'm seeing the world for the first time." Christine blushed, unused to praise, but her eyes met his with a quiet strength. "I just capture what's real," she said. That night, they talked for hours, about art, about loss, about the masks they both wore. But there was a moment, fleeting but heavy, when Henry's ex-fiancée, Rebecca, appeared, her presence a reminder of the world he'd once belonged to. Christine felt the gap between them, her worn shoes against Rebecca's designer heels, and wondered if she was fooling herself to think she could belong in his world. Yet they didn't let that moment break them. Let's trace it back further, to a time when Christine's life was a daily battle. She lived in a cramped apartment, the kind where the heater rattled and the walls were thin enough to hear her neighbors' dreams. She worked odd jobs, waitressing, freelancing, anything to keep her camera in hand and her dreams alive. But money was tight, and the weight of her past pressed hard. Her father, George, had left when she was a child, leaving scars that never fully healed. One night, exhausted and broke, she sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at a stack of bills. In her hand was a memory card filled with photos she'd taken of Henry, candid shots from that day in the park when she'd comforted him. A gossip magazine had offered her thousands for them, enough to pay her rent, to breathe for a moment. Her fingers hovered over the phone, temptation clawing at her. But she couldn't do it. Those photos weren't just images, they were a moment of trust, a stranger's vulnerability. She deleted the email, tears in her eyes, and whispered to herself, "I'm not my father. I won't betray someone for money." That choice, that quiet act of integrity, was a turning point, though she didn't know it then. How did she hold on to that strength? Let's go back to a diner, months before the gala, where Christine faced her past head-on. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind that made the city feel like it was drowning. She sat across from her father, George, who'd reappeared after years of silence. His face was lined, his voice heavy with regret, but Christine's heart was a storm of anger and longing. Mia, her best friend, sat beside her, a steady presence, her humor a lifeline in the tension. "You don't owe him anything," Mia had whispered before they walked in. But Christine needed answers. George spoke of his mistakes, his addiction, his shame, and for the first time, she saw him not as the monster of her childhood but as a broken man. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she told him, her voice cracking, "but I'm tired of carrying this pain." That conversation wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation, but it was a release, a step toward healing. As she left the diner, Henry's face flashed in her mind, not the CEO, but the man on the bench, whose tears had mirrored her own. She didn't know why she thought of him, but something in her gut told her their paths would cross again. And they did, but not without struggle. Let's move back to a stormy night, when their budding love faced its first real test. Henry had just told Christine about the London relocation, a corporate decision that could pull him across the ocean. They stood in her tiny apartment, rain battering the windows, their voices rising. "You didn't even tell me you were considering it," Christine said, her hands shaking. Henry paced, his tie loosened, his frustration spilling over. "I didn't know how to. This job, this life, it's all I've ever known." But beneath the anger was fear, fear of losing each other, fear of repeating past mistakes. Christine's voice softened, and she stepped closer, her hand on his arm. "I don't need you to stay, Henry. I just need you to be honest." That night, they didn't solve everything, but they chose to fight for each other, to build something real despite the distance looming. Henry promised to negotiate a hybrid role, and Christine promised to trust him. It was messy, imperfect, but it was theirs. How did they get to that point of trust? Let's go back to a quiet evening, one of those rare moments when the world felt kind. Henry had invited Christine to a small restaurant, just the two of them, no gala, no pretense. He gave her a gift, a vintage Leica camera, its leather case worn but beautiful. "I saw it in a shop," he said, his voice shy, "and I thought of you." Christine's breath caught, her fingers tracing the camera's edges. No one had ever seen her so clearly, not just as an artist but as a woman with dreams bigger than her circumstances. They talked late into the night, about her photography, his childhood, the weight of their pasts. When he walked her home, their hands brushed, and for a moment, they stood under a street lamp, the city fading away. "You make me want to be better," Henry said, and Christine smiled, her heart daring to believe him. That night, she fell asleep clutching the camera, feeling for the first time that she wasn't alone. But before that warmth, there was uncertainty. Let's step back to the charity event again, not the gala, but an earlier one, where their paths crossed by chance. Christine was there to photograph the event, her camera a shield against the wealth around her. Henry was a guest, his suit impeccable, his smile practiced. But when he saw her photos projected on a screen, a series of raw, honest portraits of strangers in the city, he froze. One image, of a man crying on a bench, struck him like a blow. He didn't recognize himself, but the vulnerability in the photo mirrored his own. He found Christine in the crowd, her hair tied back, her eyes focused through her lens. "Who took these?" he asked, his voice urgent. She looked up, startled, and something in his gaze made her pause. "I did," she said, and in that moment, a thread connected them, fragile but undeniable. They didn't know each other's names, but they felt it, a pull, a promise of something more. And now, let's go back to the very beginning, or rather, the moment that set it all in motion. It was a gray afternoon in Central Park, the kind where the air feels heavy with secrets. Christine, her camera slung over her shoulder, was walking home after a long day. She saw him before she heard him, a man on a bench, his shoulders shaking, his face buried in his hands. He was dressed in a suit that cost more than her rent, but his grief was raw, universal. She hesitated, her own pain urging her to keep walking, but something stronger pulled her closer. She sat beside him, silent at first, then offered him a tissue from her bag. "It's okay," she said softly, "whatever it is, you're not alone." He looked up, his eyes red, his voice broken. "You don't even know me." She smiled, sad but kind. "I don't need to." She didn't know he was Henry Lancaster, a man whose fiancée had just left him at the altar. She didn't know that her simple act of compassion would be the spark that lit their story. But as she walked away, leaving him with the tissue and a flicker of hope, the universe was already conspiring to bring them back together. And so, here we are, back at the wedding, where it all comes full circle. Christine and Henry stand hand in hand, their vows echoing through the park, their love a testament to every choice, every tear, every moment of courage. But this isn't the end, it's just the beginning of understanding how they got here, how a single act of kindness can rewrite a life. What happens next? How did that bench in the park lead to this altar? Stay with me, because the story is far from over, and every step backward reveals a truth more powerful than the last. The music of the wedding fades, the clink of champagne glasses growing distant as the golden light of Central Park softens into memory. Christine's gown, radiant moments ago, is now just a whisper in her mind, replaced by the weight of a different day, a different time. Her hand, once steady as it held Henry's, now clutches the memory of a camera, its strap worn from years of chasing dreams through a city that never slows. To understand the love that bloomed into that wedding, we have to step back further, to a moment when their paths were still fragile, when the spark of their connection was just a flicker in the chaos of their lives. It was months before the altar, before the apartment they'd call home, before the gala where their eyes locked across a crowded room. It was a night when the world felt too big, too heavy, and yet, in its vastness, it conspired to bring them together. Picture a rainy evening in New York, the kind where the streets gleam like mirrors and umbrellas bloom like flowers in a storm. Christine, barely 25, hurried through the downpour, her sneakers soaked, her camera tucked under her jacket to shield it from the rain. She was nobody in this city, a girl from a small town, scraping by on tips from waitressing and the occasional freelance gig. Her apartment was a shoebox, her bank account a constant source of dread, but her camera was her lifeline, capturing truths the world often overlooked. That night, she was late for a shift at a catering job, a high society event she'd only landed because her friend Mia pulled strings. Mia, with her sharp wit and endless loyalty, had said, "You're too good for this grind, Chris, but until the world sees it, you gotta eat." Christine laughed it off, but the truth stung. She was tired of the hustle, tired of believing her art could ever be more than a hobby. The event was at a glittering hotel, its chandeliers casting light like diamonds across a sea of wealth. Christine slipped in through the service entrance, her damp hair plastered to her face, her black uniform clinging to her skin. She was invisible here, just another pair of hands carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres to people who'd never look her in the eye. But as she moved through the crowd, balancing a tray of champagne flutes, she felt a strange pull, like a thread tugging at her heart. She didn't know why, didn't know that fate was about to play its hand. Across the room, Henry Lancaster stood, a man whose name commanded boardrooms but whose heart was a fortress, locked tight after a betrayal that still bled. He was there out of obligation, his cousin's engagement party, a reminder of the wedding he'd never had. His fiancée, Rebecca, had left him at the altar months earlier, and though he wore his success like armor, the wound was still raw. Henry's eyes, usually sharp and calculating, were distant that night, scanning the room without seeing. He was 32, a CEO who'd built an empire but lost his faith in love. The chatter around him, talk of mergers, vacations, power plays, felt hollow, a script he'd memorized but no longer believed. He was about to leave, his hand already reaching for his coat, when a crash shattered the hum of the party. Christine, rushing to refill her tray, had tripped, her tray of glasses hitting the floor in a symphony of broken crystal. The room froze, every eye on her as she knelt, her face burning, picking up shards with trembling hands. Whispers rippled through the crowd, judgment, amusement, disdain. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and never be seen again. But then, a shadow fell over her, and a hand reached down, steady and sure. It was Henry. He didn't say a word, just knelt beside her, his tailored suit brushing the floor as he gathered the broken pieces. The room watched, stunned, as the CEO of Lancaster Enterprises dirted his hands for a stranger. Christine looked up, her breath catching at the kindness in his eyes, a kindness that didn't match the man she'd imagined him to be. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, almost lost in the murmur of the crowd. She nodded, too flustered to speak, her heart pounding as their fingers brushed over a shard of glass. For a moment, the world narrowed to just them, the chaos fading, the judgment irrelevant. He helped her stand, his hand lingering on her arm a second longer than necessary, and then he was gone, swallowed by the crowd as a waiter rushed to take over. Christine's shift ended hours later, her body aching, her mind replaying that moment. She stepped into the rain, no umbrella, just her thoughts and the memory of his face. She didn't know his name, didn't know he was Henry Lancaster, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd met him before. It wasn't true, not yet, but the universe has a way of planting seeds before you know they're growing. As she walked home, the city's lights blurred through the rain, she thought of the man on the bench in Central Park, the one she'd comforted months earlier. His tears, his brokenness, had felt so familiar, but she pushed the thought away. It couldn't be the same man. That was just a fleeting moment, a stranger she'd never see again. Or so she thought. Henry, too, was haunted as he left the hotel, his driver waiting in the drizzle. He sat in the back of his car, the city passing in a blur, his mind not on the contracts or meetings that usually consumed him, but on the girl with the tray. Her eyes, wide, unguarded, carrying a quiet strength, had stirred something in him, something he'd buried after Rebecca's betrayal. He didn't know why he'd helped her, why he'd knelt on that floor when he could have walked away. It wasn't like him, not the Henry Lancaster who calculated every move. But there was something about her, something that made him want to be more than the man he'd become. He leaned his head against the window, the rain streaking down like tears, and whispered to himself, "Who are you?" He didn't expect an answer, but the question lingered, a hook in his heart. That night, Christine lay in her tiny apartment, the rain tapping against her window like a lullaby. She couldn't sleep, her mind racing with the memory of his touch, his voice. She pulled her camera from its case, scrolling through the photos she'd taken that day, candid shots of the city, of strangers, of moments no one else noticed. One image stopped her, a blurry frame from weeks ago, taken in Central Park, of a man on a bench, his face hidden but his posture unmistakable. She didn't know why she'd kept it, why it felt important. But as she stared at it, her heart whispered a truth she wasn't ready to face. the man who'd helped her tonight, the man whose eyes had seen her, was the same man she'd found crying in the park. She didn't know his name, didn't know his story, but she felt him, like a song she'd heard once and couldn't forget. Henry, miles away in his penthouse, stood by his window, the city sprawling beneath him. He held a glass of whiskey, untouched, his mind on the girl whose name he hadn't caught. He didn't know why she mattered, why her face lingered when so many others faded. But as he looked out at the rain-soaked city, he felt a shift, a crack in the walls he'd built around his heart. He didn't know that she was Christine, the photographer who'd one day capture his soul. He didn't know that their lives were already entwined, that the tissue she'd offered him in the park was the first thread in a tapestry of love. But he felt it, deep in his bones, that this wasn't the end of their story, it was just the beginning of something he couldn't yet name. And so, as the rain fell and the city slept, their paths, once crossed by chance, were now bound by something stronger. Christine clutched her camera, Henry stared into the night, and the universe whispered, "This is not where it ends." How did that rainy night lead to the love that would save them both? How did a broken tray and a stranger's kindness become the foundation of a life together? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every moment backward reveals a truth that will break your heart and mend it again. The rain of that fateful night at the hotel fades, its patter softening into the hum of a different time, a different struggle. The memory of Henry's hand brushing Christine's as they gathered shattered glass lingers, but it's not the focus now. To understand how their love grew from that fleeting moment, we must step back further, into the shadows of Christine's world, a world where hope was a fragile thing, where every day was a fight to keep her dreams alive. The wedding in Central Park, the apartment they'd share, the gala where their eyes met again, all of that is still a distant future. Now, we're in the heart of Christine's life before Henry became more than a stranger, before she dared to believe in a love that could change everything. This is a story of a girl who carried the weight of her past, who found strength in the smallest moments, and who, without knowing it, was already on a collision course with destiny. Imagine a late autumn evening in New York, the air sharp with the promise of winter. Christine's apartment is a single room in a crumbling building, the kind where the radiator hisses but never warms, and the walls are stained with stories of tenants long gone. The rent is late again, the bills stacked on a wobbly table, their red ink screaming for attention. Christine, just 24, sits cross-legged on her bed, her camera in her lap, its lens glinting under a flickering bulb. She's exhausted, her hands still smelling of coffee from a double shift at a diner, her feet aching from hours on her feet. Her life is a tightrope, each step a gamble between survival and her art. Photography isn't just a hobby, it's her rebellion against a world that tells her she's nothing, that her dreams are too big for a girl who grew up with nothing. The room is quiet, save for the distant wail of a siren and the creak of the building settling. On the wall, pinned above her bed, are Polaroids, snippets of the city she's captured, a child chasing a pigeon, an old man playing chess, a woman laughing in the rain. These are her treasures, proof that beauty exists even in the cracks of a hard life. But tonight, they feel like taunts, reminders of a dream she's not sure she can keep. Her phone buzzes with a text from Mia, her best friend, who's always been her anchor. "You're tougher than this city, Chris. Don't let it break you." Christine smiles, but it's a tired smile, one that doesn't reach her eyes. She wants to believe Mia, wants to believe in herself, but the weight of her past is heavy tonight, heavier than usual. Christine's childhood wasn't a storybook. Her father, George, walked out when she was 8, leaving her and her mother to fend for themselves. Her mother worked 3 jobs, her hands rough from cleaning houses, her smile fading with each passing year. When Christine was 16, her mother got sick, and the hospital bills ate what little they had. Christine learned early that love could be a wound, that promises could break as easily as hearts. Her mother died when Christine was 18, and George never came back, not even for the funeral. That abandonment carved a hole in Christine, one she filled with her camera, capturing the world's truths to make sense of her own. But tonight, as she sits alone, that hole feels bigger, its edges raw and aching. She sets the camera down and pulls a shoebox from under her bed, its corners frayed from years of handling. Inside are mementos of her life: her mother's locket, a ticket stub from her first museum visit, a folded napkin from a diner where she and Mia planned their futures over greasy fries. But there's something else, something she hasn't looked at in months: a single photograph, creased and worn, taken in Central Park. It's blurry, the man's face obscured, but his posture, hunched, broken, tugs at her heart. It's the man she comforted on the bench, the one whose tears mirrored her own. She doesn't know why she kept the photo, why it feels like a secret she's not ready to share. But as she traces its edges, she remembers his voice, raw and lost: "You don't even know me." And her reply, soft but certain: "I don't need to." That moment was a lifeline, not just for him, but for her, a reminder that kindness could still exist in a world that felt so cruel. Christine tucks the photo back into the box, her fingers lingering on the napkin. Written in her teenage scrawl is a promise she made to herself: "I'll make it, no matter what." She was 16 when she wrote it, full of fire despite the odds. Now, at 24, that fire is still there, but it's tempered by reality. She's not naive, she knows the world doesn't hand out dreams to girls like her. But she also knows she's not her father. She won't run, won't betray herself or others. That's why, weeks ago, she turned down an offer from a gossip magazine, one that would have paid her rent for months. They wanted photos of a mystery man crying in the park, photos she'd taken without thinking. She could have sold them, could have eased the ache of her empty fridge, but she didn't. Those photos were more than images, they were a moment of trust, a stranger's pain she'd vowed to protect. That choice, made in the quiet of her apartment, was a spark, a quiet defiance that would lead her to Henry. Her phone buzzes again, this time with a voicemail from her boss at the catering company. "Christine, you did good at that event last week. They want you back for another gig. Some big shot CEO's charity thing. Don't mess this up." She listens, her heart skipping. Another event, another chance to photograph, to be seen. She doesn't know it's Henry's event, doesn't know that the man who helped her pick up broken glass will be there, his eyes searching for something he can't name. But she feels a flicker of hope, fragile but stubborn, like a flower pushing through concrete. She grabs her camera, wipes the lens with her sleeve, and whispers to herself, "One more step. Just keep going." Outside, the city hums, its lights a constellation of stories waiting to be told. Christine steps into the night, her sneakers still damp from the last rain, her camera slung over her shoulder. She's not thinking of love, not dreaming of a man who might change her life. She's thinking of survival, of the next shot, the next chance to prove she's more than her circumstances. But somewhere, deep in her heart, she carries that moment in the park, that stranger's tears, that fleeting connection that felt like a promise. She doesn't know his name, doesn't know he's Henry Lancaster, a man whose world is as broken as hers, just in different ways. She doesn't know that their paths are already entwined, that the tissue she offered him was the first thread in a tapestry of redemption. And Henry? He's out there too, in a penthouse that feels more like a cage, his mind on a girl he doesn't yet know. He's not thinking of her face, not yet, but of the feeling she left behind, a warmth he hasn't felt since Rebecca tore his heart apart. He's not ready to love again, not ready to believe in kindness, but the universe is patient, weaving its plans in the quiet moments. Christine's photo, the one she keeps hidden, is a clue, a whisper of what's to come. How did that night in her apartment, that quiet act of integrity, lead to a love that would heal them both? How did a girl with nothing but a camera find her way to a man who had everything but hope? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a heartbreaking and mending in ways you'll never forget. The flicker of Christine's apartment bulb dims, its faint glow giving way to the pulse of a city that never sleeps. The weight of her shoebox, filled with memories and promises, lingers in her hands, but now the scene shifts, pulling us back from that solitary night to a moment when the threads of her life and Henry's began to tangle more tightly. The wedding in Central Park, the apartment they'd share, the gala where their worlds collided, all of that is still a future yet to unfold. We're tracing backward, peeling away the layers of their love to a time when Christine was still a stranger to Henry, yet their paths were crossing in ways neither could fully grasp. This is a story of fleeting glances, of clues hidden in plain sight, of a girl and a man who were closer to each other than they knew, their hearts whispering truths their minds weren't ready to hear. It's a crisp morning in New York, a few weeks after Christine's quiet night with her shoebox, her resolve to keep fighting hardened like steel. The city is alive, its streets buzzing with taxis and ambition, the air sharp with the scent of coffee and exhaust. Christine is on her way to another catering gig, her camera slung over her shoulder, her black uniform pressed but fraying at the seams. She's been picking up extra shifts, chasing every opportunity to photograph events, to get her work seen. The voicemail from her boss still echoes in her mind, another high-profile event, another chance to prove herself. She doesn't know it's for Lancaster Enterprises, doesn't know that the man who helped her pick up broken glass, the man whose tears she once dried in Central Park, will be there. But as she weaves through the crowd, her heart carries a quiet hope, a belief that something good is waiting, even if she can't name it. The event is a charity auction, held in a sleek Manhattan venue with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the skyline that takes your breath away. Christine arrives early, her camera ready, her eyes scanning the room for moments to capture, laughter, glances, the way light catches a glass of wine. She's invisible here, just like always, her lens her shield against a world that feels too big. But as she adjusts her focus, snapping shots of donors and their polished smiles, she feels a strange tug, like a memory she can't place. She shakes it off, chalking it up to nerves, and keeps working, her fingers steady on the shutter. Across the room, Henry Lancaster moves through the crowd, his presence commanding, his smile a mask he's perfected over years. He's here as the event sponsor, his company's name on every banner, but his mind is elsewhere, drifting to a night he can't forget, a girl, a tray of broken glass, a kindness that pierced his armor. Christine's lens finds him before she does. She's framing a shot of the auctioneer when Henry steps into view, his profile sharp against the city lights. Her breath catches, her finger hesitating on the shutter. It's him, the man from the hotel, the one who knelt beside her, his hands steady as they gathered shards. She doesn't know his name, doesn't know he's the CEO everyone's whispering about, but her heart races, a mix of curiosity and something deeper, something she's not ready to name. She snaps the photo, then lowers her camera, her eyes following him as he laughs with a guest, his charm effortless but his gaze distant. For a moment, she wonders if he'd remember her, if that night meant anything to him. But then she pushes the thought away, scolding herself for dreaming. He's out of her league, a man from a world she'll never touch. Henry, unaware of her gaze, feels a prickle at the back of his neck, like he's being watched, not with malice, but with something softer, something that makes his pulse quicken. He turns, scanning the room, but sees only the crowd, their faces blurring into familiarity. He doesn't see Christine, doesn't know she's there, capturing his every move through her lens. But as he signs a check for the auction, his pen pauses, his mind flashing to that rainy night, to the girl whose eyes held no judgment, only warmth. He doesn't know why she's on his mind, why her face lingers when he's tried so hard to forget. Rebecca's betrayal taught him to guard his heart, to trust no one, but that girl, her quiet strength, her unguarded kindness, has slipped past his defenses, and he doesn't even know her name. Their paths nearly cross again, a moment so close it's almost painful. Christine is sent to deliver a tray of drinks to the VIP table, her steps careful, her nerves frayed from the memory of her last spill. Henry is there, chatting with a board member, his voice smooth but his eyes restless. As she sets down a glass, her sleeve catches on a napkin, and it flutters to the floor. She bends to pick it up, her face inches from Henry's polished shoes, and he glances down, his breath catching. For a split second, their eyes meet, hers wide with embarrassment, his narrowed with a flicker of recognition. "Sorry," she mumbles, standing quickly, her cheeks burning as she hurries away. Henry watches her go, his heart thudding, a question forming in his mind, is it her? But the moment passes, the crowd swallowing her, and he's left with a nagging sense of something missed, something vital. Back at her station, Christine leans against a wall, her hands shaking. She doesn't know why that glance felt like a lightning strike, why his eyes seemed to see through her. She thinks of the photo in her shoebox, the man on the bench, and a wild thought crosses her mind, could it be him? She shakes her head, laughing at herself. It's impossible, a fantasy born of exhaustion and hope. But as she lifts her camera again, she finds herself searching for him, capturing every angle of his face, each shot a question she's too afraid to ask. She doesn't know that one of those photos, a candid of Henry, his guard down, his eyes soft with longing, will one day hang in a gallery, a testament to their story. She doesn't know that he's searching for her too, in his own way, drawn to a feeling he can't explain. Later, as the event winds down, Christine overhears a conversation that stops her cold. Two guests, their voices low, mention the host, Henry Lancaster, the CEO who lost everything when his fiancée left him at the altar. Christine freezes, her camera dangling from her neck. The man on the bench, the man who helped her, the man whose eyes haunt her, he's not just a stranger. He's someone whose heart was broken, just like hers. She doesn't know his story, doesn't know the weight of his world, but she feels a connection, a thread tying her pain to his. As she packs up her gear, her friend Mia nudges her, teasing, "You okay, Chris? You look like you've seen a ghost." Christine forces a smile, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe I have." That night, Christine walks home, the city's lights blurring through a haze of thoughts. She doesn't know that Henry, in his car across town, is holding a napkin from the event, one she dropped, its edge stained with her fingerprint. He doesn't know why he kept it, why it feels like a clue. But as they both move through the night, separated by miles and worlds, they're closer than ever, their hearts beating in sync, their stories converging. How did that almost meeting, that fleeting glance, lead to a love that would redefine them? How did a napkin and a photograph become the keys to their redemption? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a moment that will steal your breath and hold it tight. The city's pulse slows, the glow of the charity auction's lights fading into the haze of a memory that's not yet fully formed. Christine's camera, heavy with unspoken questions, and Henry's fleeting glance, charged with a spark he can't name, linger like echoes. We're moving backward, unraveling the love that would one day bind them in a Central Park wedding, peeling back the moments that brought them closer, even when they didn't know it. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their worlds collided, the vows that sealed their fate, all of that is still a horizon they can't see. Now, we're in a moment when their paths cross again, not as strangers but as two souls standing on the edge of recognition, their hearts racing with truths they're not ready to face. This is a story of a meeting that crackled with possibility, of words unspoken but felt, of a connection that refused to be ignored. It's a bright afternoon in New York, a few weeks after the charity auction where Christine's lens found Henry and his eyes found her, if only for a moment. The city is vibrant, its streets alive with the chatter of tourists and the rhythm of footsteps. Christine is at a small cafe, a rare day off from her endless grind, her camera resting on the table beside a half-empty cup of coffee. She's there to meet Mia, who's promised to drag her out of her workaholic haze, but Christine's mind is elsewhere, replaying that night at the auction. The man, Henry Lancaster, she now knows his name, has become a ghost in her thoughts, his face blending with the blurry photo in her shoebox, the man on the bench in Central Park. She tells herself it's nothing, just a coincidence, but her heart hums a different tune, one she's afraid to listen to. The cafe is cozy, its windows steamed from the warmth inside, the smell of fresh pastries mingling with the hum of conversation. Christine doodles on a napkin, her fingers restless, when the door chimes and a shadow falls across her table. She looks up, expecting Mia, but it's not her. It's Henry Lancaster, his suit impeccable, his presence commanding even in this unassuming place. He's there for a quick meeting, a rare break from his corporate fortress, but the sight of Christine stops him cold. Her face, those wide, unguarded eyes, strikes him like a memory he can't place. He hesitates, his hand on the back of a chair, then takes a step closer, his voice cautious but warm. "Mind if I sit here? It's a bit crowded." Christine blinks, her heart lurching, but she nods, her voice barely steady. "Sure, go ahead." They sit, the air between them charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. Henry doesn't know why he asked to sit, why this girl feels like a puzzle he needs to solve. Christine doesn't know why she didn't say no, why his presence makes her feel both exposed and safe. Their conversation starts small, polite, talk of the weather, the city, the cafe's too strong coffee. But there's an undercurrent, a pull that makes every word feel heavier. Henry notices her camera, its worn strap a stark contrast to the polished table. "You're a photographer?" he asks, his tone curious, not condescending. Christine nods, her fingers brushing the camera instinctively. "Yeah. It's my way of seeing the world." He leans forward, intrigued, and for the first time in months, his smile isn't forced. "What do you see when you look through that lens?" She pauses, her eyes meeting his, and says, "The things people try to hide." That answer hits Henry like a punch, stirring something deep, something he's buried since Rebecca's betrayal. He doesn't know why her words feel like a mirror, why they make him want to tell her things he's never told anyone. Christine, too, feels the weight of the moment, her heart whispering that this man isn't just a stranger. She thinks of the bench, the tissue, the tears, but she pushes the thought away, afraid to hope. They talk longer than they mean to, the cafe fading around them, their voices weaving a fragile bridge. Henry tells her about a painting he saw once, one that made him feel alive. Christine shares a story of photographing a street musician, how his music carried her through a dark day. It's simple, unguarded, but every word feels like a step closer to something neither can name. Then, a moment shifts everything. As Christine reaches for her coffee, her sleeve slips, revealing a thin silver bracelet, its charm catching the light. Henry freezes, his breath catching, because he knows that bracelet. He gave it to a girl years ago, in a fleeting moment he thought he'd forgotten, a rainy night, a diner, a promise made in haste. His mind races, trying to reconcile the girl in front of him with the memory, but it's too much, too fast. "That bracelet," he says, his voice tight, "where did you get it?" Christine looks down, startled, her fingers brushing the charm. "It was a gift, a long time ago." "Why?" Her eyes search his, and for a split second, they both feel it, a crack in the wall between them, a truth trying to break free. But Henry pulls back, his CEO mask slipping into place. "Just reminded me of something," he mutters, standing abruptly. "I should go." Christine watches him leave, her heart pounding, her mind a storm of questions. She doesn't know why his question felt like a key turning in a lock, why his eyes seemed to see through her. She thinks of the photo in her shoebox, the man on the bench, and now this bracelet, a gift from a stranger who'd helped her on a rainy night years ago. Could it be him? The thought is wild, impossible, but it clings to her, refusing to let go. She pulls out her camera, scrolling through the shots from the auction, and stops on one of Henry, his face soft, unguarded, the same vulnerability she saw in the park. Her breath hitches, her fingers trembling as she whispers, "No way. It can't be." Henry, meanwhile, strides through the city, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement, his mind a tangle of doubt and wonder. That bracelet, it's not just a coincidence. He remembers the girl, the diner, the way her smile had warmed him when he was at his lowest. But this girl, Christine, with her camera and her quiet strength, she can't be the same, can she? He stops at a crosswalk, the city blurring around him, and pulls out his phone, scrolling to a contact he hasn't called in years, his old driver, the one who might remember that night. He doesn't know what he's chasing, doesn't know why this matters so much, but he feels it in his bones, a pull, a need to know. As the day fades, Christine sits in the cafe, her coffee cold, her napkin covered in doodles of eyes that look too much like Henry's. She doesn't know that he's out there, searching for answers, driven by a feeling he can't ignore. They're so close, their hearts beating in sync, but the truth is still just out of reach, a shadow they're both afraid to touch. How did that cafe meeting, that bracelet, that moment of almost recognition, lead to a love that would save them? How did two strangers, bound by a single act of kindness, find their way to each other? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a truth that will make your heart ache and soar. The cafe's warmth fades, its steamed windows and the echo of Henry's question about the bracelet dissolving into the hum of a new moment, a new collision. Christine's trembling fingers, clutching her camera with its secrets, and Henry's racing heart, haunted by a memory he can't place, are now just threads in a tapestry we're unraveling backward. The wedding in Central Park, the apartment they'd built together, the gala where their love took root, all of that lies in a future they can't yet imagine. We're tracing the path of their redemption, stepping back to a time when their connection deepened, when the walls between them began to crumble under the weight of unspoken truths. This is a story of two souls forced to face each other, of emotions that refused to stay hidden, of a moment that shook them both and set their hearts on a course they couldn't deny. It's a bustling morning in Manhattan, a few days after that charged encounter in the cafe, the city alive with the clatter of construction and the rush of ambition. Christine is in a sleek office tower, her sneakers out of place against the polished marble floors. She's been called in for a last-minute photography job, a corporate event for Lancaster Enterprises, and her nerves are a tangle of excitement and dread. She doesn't know why she feels so unsteady, why the name Lancaster makes her pulse quicken. Her camera hangs around her neck, a familiar weight, but her mind is on the man from the cafe, Henry Lancaster, the CEO whose eyes seem to see her soul, whose question about her bracelet left her reeling. She pushes the thought away, focusing on the job, but her heart hums with a quiet certainty, this is no ordinary day. The event is a press conference, a launch for a new philanthropic initiative, and the room is buzzing with reporters, executives, and flashing cameras. Christine is there to capture candid shots, her lens scanning for moments of authenticity in a sea of polished facades. She's invisible, as always, her black jeans and worn jacket blending into the background. But as she adjusts her focus, she sees him, Henry, standing at the podium, his voice steady as he speaks about giving back to the city. He's every inch the CEO, his suit tailored, his smile calculated, but Christine notices something else, the way his hand grips the podium, the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. Her camera clicks, capturing it before she can think, and for a moment, she feels like she's seeing the man from the bench again, the one whose tears she held in silence. Henry, mid-speech, feels a prickle at the back of his neck, the same sensation he felt at the auction. He glances into the crowd, his eyes landing on Christine, her camera raised, her face half hidden behind the lens. His words falter, just for a second, and the room doesn't notice, but he does. It's her, the girl from the cafe, the girl with the bracelet, the girl who's been haunting his thoughts. He doesn't know why she's here, why she keeps appearing in his world, but he feels a pull, a need to know her. When the speech ends, he steps off the stage, ignoring the hands reaching for him, and makes his way toward her. Christine, caught off guard, lowers her camera, her heart pounding as he approaches. "You're the photographer," he says, his voice low, not a question but a realization. She nods, her throat tight. "Yeah. Just, doing my job." Their conversation is brief, professional on the surface, but every word crackles with something deeper. Henry asks about her work, his questions careful but genuine. Christine answers, her voice steady but her eyes searching his, looking for the man she saw in the park, the man who asked about her bracelet. They're interrupted by an assistant, who hands Henry a folder and whispers about a meeting, but he waves her off, his focus on Christine. "Your photos," he says, "they're different. They see things others miss." Christine blushes, unused to praise, but her reply is honest. "I just try to find the truth." Their eyes lock, and for a moment, The room fades, the noise of the press conference a distant hum. It's not love, not yet, but it's a recognition, a spark that neither can ignore. Then, something shifts the air between them. As Christine adjusts her camera strap, a small charm on her bracelet catches the light, a tiny silver star, worn but shining. Henry's breath catches, his mind flashing to that rainy night years ago, when he'd given a girl a bracelet just like it, a fleeting gesture he thought meant nothing. His hand moves instinctively, reaching for her wrist, then stopping short, his fingers hovering. "That star," he says, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've seen it before." Christine freezes, her eyes wide, her heart a drumbeat in her chest. She doesn't know why his words feel like a key turning in a lock, why they make her want to run and stay all at once. "It's just a charm," she says, but her voice shakes, betraying her. Henry's eyes search hers, and for a moment, they're both lost, standing on the edge of a truth neither is ready to face. The moment is broken by a reporter calling Henry's name, pulling him back to his world. He steps away, his expression conflicted, but not before saying, "We'll talk again. I want to see more of your work." Christine nods, her hands trembling as she grips her camera, watching him disappear into the crowd. She feels exposed, like he's seen a part of her she's kept hidden, but she also feels alive, like the world has just shifted beneath her feet. As she packs up her gear, her mind races, replaying his words, his touch that never came, the star on her bracelet. She thinks of the photo in her shoebox, the man on the bench, and now this moment, this man who seems to know her without knowing her. "It's not possible," she whispers to herself, but the words feel hollow, like a lie she's trying to believe. Henry, back in the fray of the press conference, can't focus, his mind on the girl with the star charm. He doesn't know why it matters, why her presence feels like a piece of a puzzle he's been missing. But as he shakes hands and smiles for cameras, he's haunted by a memory, a girl, a diner, a promise made in the rain. He doesn't know her name, doesn't know that she's Christine, the photographer who's already captured his heart in ways he can't understand. But he feels it, deep in his bones, that this isn't a coincidence. He pulls out his phone, texting his assistant to find out who the photographer was, his heart racing with a mix of fear and hope. As the day fades, Christine walks home, her camera heavy with new images, her mind heavier with questions. She doesn't know that Henry is out there, chasing a memory, driven by a feeling he can't ignore. They're closer now, their paths converging, their hearts beating in a rhythm they can't yet hear. How did that press conference, that star charm, that moment of almost touching, lead to a love that would redeem them both? How did two strangers, bound by a bracelet and a tear-soaked bench, find their way to each other? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a truth that will make your heart race and break in the same breath. The hum of the press conference fades, its flashing cameras and Henry's fleeting question about the star charm dissolving into the quiet of a new moment, a new unraveling. Christine's trembling hands, clutching her camera with its unspoken truths, and Henry's racing mind, haunted by a bracelet he can't forget, are now sparks in a fire that's about to ignite. We're moving backward, tracing the love that would one day bloom in a Central Park wedding, peeling back the layers to a time when the truth began to surface, when the walls around their hearts cracked under the weight of memory. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love deepened, the vows that bound them, all of that is still a distant dream. Now, we're in a moment when the past and present collide, when a single revelation shakes them both, setting their story on a path they can't escape. This is a story of a truth half revealed, of a man confronting his own blindness, of a girl whose quiet strength becomes a mirror he can't look away from. It's a late evening in New York, a few days after the press conference where Henry saw the star charm on Christine's wrist. The city is settling into dusk, its skyline a tapestry of lights against a deepening blue. Henry is in his penthouse office, the kind of place where power is palpable, its glass walls reflecting a man who's built an empire but lost something vital along the way. He's alone, the hum of the city below a distant murmur, his desk littered with contracts and reports he hasn't touched. His mind is elsewhere, consumed by the girl with the camera, the girl whose bracelet has unlocked a memory he thought was buried. The star charm, it's not just a coincidence. It's a key, a clue to a night he's tried to forget, a night when he was broken, and a stranger's kindness pulled him back from the edge. Henry paces, his polished shoes silent on the plush carpet, his hands restless. He's been digging, quietly, since the press conference, asking his assistant to pull records, to find out who the photographer was. Her name, Christine Harper, sits on a post-it note on his desk, but it's not enough. He needs more, needs to know why her face, her eyes, her bracelet feel like pieces of a puzzle he's been missing for years. He opens a drawer, one he rarely touches, and pulls out a small leather notebook, its pages yellowed with time. It's from 5 years ago, a journal he kept during his darkest days, after Rebecca left him at the altar, after his world crumbled. He flips through it, his heart pounding, until he finds an entry dated late one rainy night, met a girl at a diner. Gave her my bracelet. She didn't ask for anything, just listened. I'll never forget her eyes. His breath catches, the words a punch to his gut. Could it be her? The door opens, and his assistant, Sarah, steps in, her face hesitant. Mr. Lancaster, I found something, she says, holding out a folder. Inside is a photo from a company event years ago, a blurry shot of the catering staff. And there, in the corner, is Christine, younger, her hair tied back, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. Henry's hand shakes as he stares at her, the memory flooding back. It was the night he'd wandered into a diner, soaked and shattered, after Rebecca's betrayal. A girl had sat across from him, her voice soft, her presence a lifeline. She'd worn his bracelet, a star charm he'd bought on a whim, a token of a moment he thought meant nothing. But now, seeing Christine's face in the photo, he knows, it was her. The girl from the diner, the girl from the park, the girl with the camera. They're all the same. Henry's knees buckle, and he sinks into his chair, the folder slipping to the floor. His mind races, piecing together the fragments, her kindness in the park, her spill at the hotel, her photos at the auction, her bracelet in the cafe. How could he not see it? How could he be so blind? The weight of his ignorance crashes over him, a wave of regret and wonder. She's been there, in his orbit, all this time, and he didn't know. He thinks of her eyes, so unguarded, so familiar, and feels a pang of something he hasn't felt in years, shame. He's built a life on control, on keeping people at arm's length, but this girl, this woman, has slipped past every defense, and he didn't even realize it. He grabs his phone, his fingers trembling as he dials Sarah. Find her, he says, his voice raw. I need to know where she is. Now. Meanwhile, Christine is across town, in her tiny apartment, the cities hum a distant lullaby. She's sitting on her bed, her camera in her lap, scrolling through the photos from the press conference. She stops on one of Henry, his face caught in a rare moment of vulnerability, his eyes soft with something like longing. Her heart aches, the star charm on her bracelet glinting under the lamplight. She doesn't know why she kept it all these years, why it feels like a piece of her soul. But his question at the cafe, his reaction at the press conference, they've stirred something in her, a suspicion she's afraid to voice. She pulls out her shoebox, her hands unsteady, and finds the photo from Central Park, the man on the bench. She compares it to the one on her camera, and though the faces are blurred, the posture, the pain, it's the same. Her breath hitches, her mind screaming what her heart already knows, it's him. She stands, pacing her cramped room, her thoughts a storm. The man on the bench, the man in the diner, the man at the press conference, they're all Henry Lancaster. But how? Why? She thinks of his tears, his kindness, his question about the bracelet, and feels a mix of fear and wonder. He's not just a stranger, not just a CEO. He's someone who's seen her, who's touched her life in ways she didn't understand until now. But what does it mean? Does he remember her? Does he feel this pull, this thread that's been tying them together? She wants to run to him, to ask, but fear stops her. What if she's wrong? What if she's just a girl dreaming too big, seeing connections where there are none? The city outside hums, its lights a constellation of stories waiting to be told. Henry, in his office, stares at the journal, the photo, the post-it with her name. He's shaking, not with anger but with a desperate need to understand, to make this right. Christine, in her apartment, clutches the photo, her heart a battleground of hope and doubt. They're miles apart, but closer than ever, their truths colliding in a moment that will change everything. How did this revelation, this crack in their walls, lead to a love that would heal them? How did a bracelet, a photo, a memory become the keys to their redemption? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a truth that will shake your soul and make you believe in fate. The glow of Henry's penthouse office dims, the journal and the blurry photo of Christine slipping into the shadows as a new moment emerges, raw and unyielding. The truth he's just uncovered, that Christine is the girl from the diner, the park, the one whose bracelet has haunted him, burns in his chest, but it's only the beginning. We're unraveling backward, tracing the love that would one day bind them in a Central Park wedding, peeling back the layers to a moment when the full weight of their shared past crashes into the present. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love took shape, the vows that sealed their fate, all of that is still a future they can't see. Now, we're in a moment when the truth explodes, when every clue, every glance, every unspoken feeling converges in a storm of revelation. This is a story of a man and a woman facing the wreckage of their choices, of a love that could break or mend them, of a truth so heavy it threatens to tear them apart before they can find each other. It's a rainy afternoon in New York, a few days after Henry's discovery in his office, the city cloaked in a gray that mirrors the turmoil in his heart. He's arranged a meeting, pulling strings to ensure Christine is there, though she doesn't know why. The venue is a quiet gallery space, a neutral ground where Lancaster Enterprises is hosting a small art exhibit to promote local talent. Christine arrives, her camera slung over her shoulder, her nerves frayed. She's been hired to photograph the event, but the call came from Henry's assistant, and the memory of his question about her bracelet, his intensity at the press conference, has left her restless. She doesn't know what to expect, doesn't know that the man she's been dreaming of is about to confront her with a truth that will shatter everything. The gallery is intimate, its walls lined with paintings and photographs, the air heavy with the scent of rain and anticipation. Christine moves through the room, her lens capturing the art, the guests, the moments no one else sees. But her eyes keep drifting to the door, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. Henry enters, his presence commanding despite the shadows under his eyes, the weight of sleepless nights etched into his face. He spots her immediately, her figure small but radiant against the gallery's soft light, and his breath catches. She's here, the girl who's been in his thoughts, his memories, his regrets. He approaches, his steps deliberate, his voice low but urgent. "Christine, we need to talk." She turns, startled, her camera lowering as their eyes meet. The way he says her name, familiar, desperate, makes her heart lurch. "Mr. Lancaster," she starts, formal, but he shakes his head, stepping closer, his hands clenched as if to keep himself from reaching for her. "No. Not Mr. Lancaster. Henry. You know me, don't you?" His words are a plea, a challenge, and Christine feels the ground shift beneath her. She wants to deny it, to protect herself from whatever this is, but his eyes, those same eyes from the park, the diner, the cafe, hold her captive. I don't know what you mean," she says, but her voice trembles, betraying her. Henry's jaw tightens, and he pulls something from his pocket, a small, worn photograph, the one from his journal, of a girl in a diner, her face younger but unmistakable. He holds it out, his hand shaking. "This is you, isn't it? 5 years ago, in a diner, under the rain. You wore my bracelet. You listened when I had nothing left. And in Central Park, you gave me a tissue when I was falling apart. It's you, Christine. It's always been you." His voice cracks, and the gallery fades, the world narrowing to just them, their truths colliding like thunder. Christine stares at the photo, her breath shallow, her mind racing. The bracelet, the park, the diner, it's all true, every moment she's carried in her heart, every clue she's tried to dismiss. Her eyes fill with tears, not of joy but of fear, of a truth too big to hold. "You don't understand," she whispers, her voice breaking. "I was nobody. I was just there. You were broken, and I couldn't walk away. But you never came back. You forgot me." The words spill out, raw and jagged, years of quiet pain pouring into the space between them. Henry flinches, his face crumpling, but he steps closer, his voice urgent. "I didn't forget. I didn't know. I was lost, Christine. Rebecca, she destroyed me, and I thought I could never trust again. But you were the one thing that felt real, and I let you slip away." His confession hangs in the air, a wound laid bare, but Christine shakes her head, her tears falling now, her camera a heavy weight against her chest. "You don't get it," she says, her voice rising, her pain a storm. "I kept that bracelet because it was the only thing that made me believe someone could see me. But you're Henry Lancaster. You live in a world I can't touch. And now you're here, acting like it means something, but what am I supposed to do with that?" Her words cut, and Henry feels them like a blade, his regret a weight he can't carry. He reaches for her, but she steps back, her eyes blazing with a mix of love and fury. "I saw you in the park," she continues, her voice softer now, crying, "alone. I gave you a tissue because I knew what it felt like to be invisible. But I can't be that girl again, Henry. I can't." The air is thick, the gallery silent, the rain outside a mournful drumbeat. Henry's face is a mask of anguish, his hands trembling as he tries to find words. "Christine, I'm not asking you to be that girl. I'm asking you to let me know you, to let me make this right." But she's already turning, her camera clutched like a shield, her heart breaking under the weight of a truth she wasn't ready for. "I need time," she says, her voice barely audible, and then she's gone, slipping through the crowd, the rain swallowing her as she steps into the street. Henry stands frozen, the photo still in his hand, his world collapsing under the realization of what he's lost, not just now, but all those years ago. Christine runs, the city blurring through her tears, her bracelet burning against her wrist. She doesn't know where she's going, only that she can't breathe, can't face the truth that Henry is the man she's carried in her heart, the man who's seen her and forgotten her. Henry, left in the gallery, sinks to his knees, the photo crumpling in his fist, his voice a broken whisper. "What have I done?" Their worlds apart now, their truths laid bare, their love teetering on the edge of ruin. How did this moment, this shattering revelation, lead to a love that would mend them? How did a bracelet, a photo, a tear-soaked confession become the bridge to their redemption? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a wound that will break your heart and a hope that will lift it again. The rain-soaked gallery fades, its walls and the crumpled photograph in Henry's hand dissolving into the quiet ache of a new moment, heavy with regret. Christine's tearful departure, her words cutting through him like a blade, lingers, a wound that bleeds into the present. We're unraveling backward, tracing the love that would one day unite them in a Central Park wedding, peeling back the layers to a time when the truth of their past left them broken, when Henry faced the man he'd become and the man he wanted to be. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love grew, the vows that bound them, all of that is still a distant hope. Now, we're in a moment when Henry confronts his mistakes, when his heart, once guarded, cracks open, and he begins a quiet, desperate search for redemption. This is a story of a man stripped bare, of a woman whose absence is a mirror, of a love that demands change before it can heal. It's a cold evening in New York, a few days after the gallery confrontation, the city cloaked in a mist that blurs its edges, much like the turmoil in Henry's soul. He's in his penthouse, but it's no longer a fortress of power, it's a cage, its vast windows mocking him with a view of a city that feels empty without her. The lights are off, the only glow coming from a single lamp on his desk, illuminating the photograph of Christine from the diner, its edges worn from his restless fingers. He sits, his suit rumpled, his tie discarded, his face a map of sleepless nights and unspoken apologies. The man who once commanded boardrooms with a glance is gone, replaced by someone smaller, humbler, a man who's lost something he didn't know he had until it was gone. Christine's words echo in his mind, "You forgot me," each syllable a reminder of the years he let slip by, the moments he failed to see her. Henry's hand trembles as he picks up the photo, his eyes tracing her younger face, her eyes so full of quiet strength. He thinks of the diner, the park, the bracelet, and feels a wave of shame so deep it steals his breath. How could he not know? How could he walk through life, building an empire, while she carried his memory, his kindness, like a light in the dark? He remembers her voice in the gallery, raw with pain, "I can't be that girl again." He understands now, she wasn't just a stranger, a fleeting moment. She was a turning point, a chance he squandered, a heart he broke without even knowing. He sets the photo down, his fingers brushing a post-it with her name, Christine Harper, and feels a resolve harden in his chest. He's lost her once, twice, too many times. He won't lose her again. He stands, pacing the room, his mind racing with memories he's been too afraid to face. He thinks of the night in the diner, 5 years ago, when he was a shell of himself, shattered by Rebecca's betrayal. Christine had sat across from him, her presence a balm, her silence a gift. She didn't ask for his name, his story, his wealth, she just listened, her eyes seeing him when he felt invisible. And in Central Park, when he was at his lowest, her tissue, her soft words, "You're not alone," had been a lifeline. He'd taken those moments for granted, buried them under ambition and fear, but now they're all he can see. He stops, his hand gripping the back of a chair, and whispers to himself, "I was blind. But I see you now, Christine. I see you." Henry's resolve pushes him into action, but it's not the calculated moves of a CEO, it's the fumbling, earnest steps of a man learning to feel again. He grabs his phone, scrolling through contacts, searching for anyone who might know where she is. He calls Sarah, his assistant, his voice urgent. "I need to find Christine Harper. Check every event, every job we've hired her for. I need to know where she's gone." Sarah hesitates, sensing the shift in him, but agrees, promising to dig deeper. Henry doesn't stop there. He drives to the gallery, the rain soaking him as he stands where she stood, hoping for a clue, a trace of her. The owner, an older woman with kind eyes, recognizes him. "You're looking for the photographer," she says, not a question. She left in tears. Said she needed space. Henry's heart sinks, but he presses on, asking for anything, a number, an address, a hint. The woman shakes her head, but her gaze softens. "She's got a good heart, that one. Don't break it again." The words hit like a fist, and Henry drives through the city, his mind a storm of regret and determination. He stops at the diner where they met years ago, its neon sign flickering, its booths unchanged. It's empty, save for a waitress who doesn't know Christine, but Henry sits anyway, ordering coffee he won't drink, staring at the spot where she once sat. He imagines her there, young and hopeful, her bracelet glinting under the fluorescent lights. He pulls out his phone, scrolling through photos from the press conference, stopping on one Christine took, a candid of him, his face unguarded, his eyes soft with something like hope. She saw him, even then, and he didn't see her. The realization is a weight, but it's also a spark, a reason to keep going. He visits her old apartment building, its paint peeling, its hallways smelling of damp and dreams deferred. The landlord, a gruff man with a cigarette dangling from his lips, says Christine moved out days ago, no forwarding address. She was a good tenant, he mutters, always paid late, but she paid. Henry's heart twists, imagining her scraping by, carrying his memory while he lived in luxury. He leaves, the rain heavier now, and stands on the sidewalk, his breath visible in the cold. He's not giving up, but the city feels vast, and she feels further away than ever. He pulls out the photograph again, its edges soft from his touch, and speaks to it, his voice a broken promise. "I'll find you, Christine. I'll make this right, even if it takes everything I have." Across town, Christine is gone, her absence a void Henry can't fill. He doesn't know where she is, doesn't know that she's wrestling with her own pain, her own fear of hoping again. But he feels her, in every corner of the city, in every memory he's uncovered. He's not the man he was, not the CEO who hid behind power, not the man who let love slip away. He's someone new, someone who's learned to see, to feel, to fight for what matters. The city hums around him, its lights a constellation of chances, and he vows to keep searching, to prove he's worthy of the woman who saw him when he was nothing. How did this moment, this desperate search, lead to a love that would redeem them both? How did a man who lost everything find the strength to chase a woman who was always there? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a heart breaking open, a soul learning to love, and a hope that refuses to die. The rain-soaked streets of New York blur, Henry's desperate search for Christine fading into the mist as we step further back, unraveling the threads of a love that would one day bloom in a Central Park wedding. The photograph he clutches, the diner's flickering neon, the echo of his vow to find her, all of these are now fragments, pieces of a puzzle not yet complete. We're tracing backward, peeling away the layers to a moment when Henry's search takes root, when his heart, raw and open, grapples with the man he must become to deserve her. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love solidified, the vows that bound them, these are still a distant future. Now, we're in a moment of quiet transformation, when Henry faces his past, his failures, and the faint hope of redemption. This is a story of a man learning to listen to his heart, of a woman whose absence shapes him, of a love that demands he change before it can begin. It's a gray morning in New York, a few days after Henry's futile visit to the diner, the city waking under a sky heavy with clouds. He's in a small, nondescript office, far from the gleaming towers of Lancaster Enterprises, sitting across from a therapist he hasn't seen in years. The room is simple, its walls bare except for a single painting of a stormy sea, its waves a mirror to the turmoil in Henry's chest. He's here because he's lost, not just Christine but himself, and the weight of his mistakes is too heavy to carry alone. His suit is wrinkled, his eyes shadowed, his hands restless as they clutch a worn photograph, the one of Christine in the diner, its edges soft from his touch. "I don't know who I am anymore," he says, his voice low, raw. "I've spent years building walls, and she saw through them, and I didn't even know." The therapist, a woman with gray hair and a gaze that cuts through pretense, listens as Henry speaks, his words tumbling out like a confession. He tells her about the diner, 5 years ago, when Christine's kindness saved him from despair. He tells her about Central Park, her tissue, her soft voice pulling him back from the edge. He tells her about the bracelet, the gallery, the truth he uncovered too late. "She thinks I forgot her," he says, his voice breaking, and she's right. "I did. I was so caught up in my pain, my ambition, that I didn't see her. And now she's gone, and I don't know how to find her." The therapist leans forward, her voice steady but kind. "You're not looking for her, Henry. You're looking for yourself. Until you face the man you've been, you can't be the man she needs." Her words hit like a stone, and Henry flinches, the photograph trembling in his hands. He thinks of Rebecca, the fiancée who left him at the altar, and the walls he built to protect himself, walls of power, control, isolation. He thinks of Christine, her unguarded eyes, her quiet strength, and realizes she's been his mirror all along, showing him the man he could be if he dared to let go. He leaves the session shaken but resolute, the therapist's words echoing, "Change isn't a gesture, Henry. It's a choice you make every day." He steps into the city, the air sharp with the promise of rain, and feels a shift, a spark of purpose. He doesn't know where Christine is, but he knows he has to become someone worthy of her, someone who sees, who feels, who doesn't run from love. Henry's search continues, but it's different now, not just a hunt for Christine, but a quest to rebuild himself. He visits places tied to their past, each one a step toward understanding. He returns to Central Park, to the bench where she found him crying, and sits, the autumn leaves crunching under his shoes. He imagines her there, her camera slung over her shoulder, her voice soft, "You're not alone." He closes his eyes, letting the memory wash over him, and vows to be the man she believed in, even for a moment. He tracks down Mia, Christine's best friend, at a coffee shop where she works, her sharp eyes sizing him up. "You hurt her," Mia says, her voice cold, but Henry doesn't flinch. "I know. I'm trying to make it right. Please, just tell me if she's okay." Mia hesitates, then softens, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. "She's surviving. That's what she does. But she's not ready for you, not yet." Henry nods, his heart heavy but grateful for the truth. He spends days combing through records, calling event organizers, searching for any trace of Christine's work. He finds one of her photographs in a small online gallery, a black and white shot of a child chasing a balloon, its joy so vivid it makes his chest ache. He buys it, not to own it but to hold a piece of her vision, a reminder of the woman who sees beauty in the ordinary. He hangs it in his office, replacing a sterile corporate print, and feels a piece of himself shift, a crack in the armor he's worn too long. He starts small changes, skipping boardroom power plays to volunteer at a community center, listening to his staff instead of commanding them, writing letters to Christine he'll never send, each one an apology, a promise, a hope. The city moves around him, its rhythm a constant reminder of time slipping by. Henry doesn't know where Christine is, doesn't know that she's out there, wrestling with her own heart, her bracelet a weight she can't remove. But he feels her, in every choice he makes, every step toward becoming a man who deserves her. He visits the diner again, leaving a generous tip and a note for the staff, "Thank you for being a place where kindness happens." He walks through the city, his eyes open now, seeing the people he once ignored, the street vendor, the tired mother, the artist sketching in the subway. Christine taught him to see, and though she's gone, her lessons are his guide. One evening, as the city settles into dusk, Henry stands on a bridge overlooking the Hudson, the water reflecting the last light of day. He pulls out the photograph, its edges now frayed, and speaks to it, his voice steady despite the ache. "I'm not giving up, Christine. I'm becoming someone you can trust, someone who sees you. Wherever you are, I hope you feel it." The wind carries his words, and though she's not there, the universe listens, weaving their paths closer with every choice he makes. He's not the man he was, not the CEO who hid from pain, not the man who let her slip away. He's someone new, someone who's learning to love, to hope, to fight for what matters. How did this moment, this quiet transformation, lead to a love that would save them both? How did a man who lost himself find the courage to become someone new for a woman he may never find? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a soul awakening, a heart learning to beat again, and a love that refuses to fade. The Hudson's reflective glow fades, Henry's quiet vow to become a man worthy of Christine dissolving into the city's endless hum as we step further back, unraveling the love that would one day bind them in a Central Park wedding. His transformation, sparked by her absence, is a flame burning brighter, but it's not yet the fire that will light their path. We're tracing backward, peeling away the layers to a moment when Henry's search for redemption deepens, when he grapples with the ghosts of his past and the faint hope of finding her. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love took root, the vows that sealed their fate, all remain a future unseen. Now, we're in a moment of reckoning, where Henry faces the man he was, the pain he caused, and the fragile possibility of a second chance. This is a story of a man haunted by regret, of a woman whose memory reshapes him, of a love that demands he confront his deepest fears before it can bloom. It's a chilly morning in New York, a week after Henry's moment on the bridge, the city waking under a sky streaked with pale light. He's in a modest community center in Brooklyn, far from the polished towers of his corporate world, his sleeves rolled up, his hands dusty from moving boxes of donated supplies. The center is a hub of controlled chaos, volunteers sorting clothes, children laughing in a makeshift playroom, the air thick with the smell of coffee and hope. Henry's here because of Christine, because her photographs, her way of seeing the world, have opened his eyes to the lives he's ignored. He's not here for publicity or power, he's here to learn, to listen, to be part of something bigger than himself. His heart is heavy, the photograph of Christine tucked in his wallet, a constant reminder of the woman he's failed and the man he's trying to become. As he stacks boxes, a woman approaches, her face lined with years of hard-won wisdom. She's the center's director, Maria, and her eyes are sharp, seeing through Henry's polished exterior to the turmoil beneath. "You're not here for a photo op," she says, her tone half question, half statement. Henry shakes his head, his voice quiet but firm. "No. I'm here because someone showed me what it means to care, and I've spent too long looking the other way." Maria studies him, then nods, handing him a clipboard. "Good. Then help us sort these donations. People need more than money, they need someone who shows up." Her words echo the therapist's, and Henry feels them settle deep, a call to action he can't ignore. While he works, his mind drifts to Christine, to the moments they shared, the diner, the park, the gallery. Each memory is a wound, but also a guide, showing him the man he wasn't and the man he could be. He thinks of her bracelet, the star charm that linked their pasts, and wonders where she is, if she's safe, if she's thinking of him. He's been searching, quietly, relentlessly, but the city is vast, and Christine has always been good at disappearing. He's tracked down old contacts, visited galleries where her work might appear, even left messages with Mia, though she's guarded, protective of her friend. "She's healing," Mia told him last, her voice soft but firm. "Give her time." Henry wants to, but time feels like an enemy, each day without her a reminder of his failures. Midday, Henry takes a break, sitting on a bench outside the center, the cold biting through his jacket. He pulls out the photograph, its edges now frayed, and traces her face with his thumb. He thinks of Rebecca, the fiancée who shattered him, and realizes how different Christine is, how her kindness asked for nothing, how her strength held him up when he was nothing. He's been running from that truth, hiding behind wealth and control, but Christine's absence has stripped him bare. He closes his eyes, the city's hum a distant pulse, and speaks to her, his voice a whisper. "I'm trying, Christine. I'm trying to be the man you saw, even when I couldn't see myself." The words are a prayer, a promise, and though she's not there, they anchor him, giving him the strength to keep going. Later, Maria joins him, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug. She doesn't ask about the photograph, but her gaze lingers, and Henry feels compelled to speak. "There's someone I hurt," he says, his voice low, "someone who deserved better. I'm trying to find her, to make it right, but I don't know if I can." Maria listens, her silence an invitation, and Henry tells her about Christine, not her name, but her heart, her photographs, the way she changed him without trying. Maria nods, her eyes warm but unflinching. "You don't fix a hurt like that with grand gestures, Mr. Lancaster. You fix it by living differently, by showing up, by being the man she needed all along." Her words are a mirror, reflecting the therapist's advice, Mia's warnings, his own heart's quiet truth. Henry returns to the city with Maria's words burning in him, a fire that fuels his search. He visits a small gallery where Christine once submitted work, finding a single photograph, a street scene, raw and honest, her signature in the corner. He buys it, not to possess it but to hold her vision close, a reminder of the woman who taught him to see. He hangs it beside the one in his office, a growing collection of her truth, a shrine to the love he's fighting for. He writes another letter he'll never send, his pen scratching across the page, "I'm learning, Christine. I'm learning to be kind, to be open, to be yours, if you'll let me." The words are messy, imperfect, but they're his, a step toward the man she deserves. He tracks down an old friend of Christine's, a photographer who knew her from freelance gigs. The man is wary, but Henry's sincerity softens him. "She's been quiet," he says, "taking jobs out of the city, needing space. She's strong, but she's hurting." Henry's heart aches, but the news is a spark, a sign she's still out there, still fighting. He thanks the man, leaving his number, a quiet plea, if she's ever ready, tell her I'm waiting. The city hums around him, its lights a constellation of possibilities, and Henry feels a shift, a certainty that this isn't the end. He's not the man he was, not the CEO who buried his heart, not the man who let her slip away. He's someone new, someone who's learning to hope, to fight, to love. How did this moment, this quiet reckoning, lead to a love that would heal them both? How did a man haunted by regret find the courage to rebuild himself for a woman he may never see again? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a heart breaking open, a soul finding its way, and a love that burns brighter in the dark. The hum of the Brooklyn Community Center fades, Henry's quiet resolve and the photograph of Christine softening into the pulse of a new moment, a new step backward in the unraveling of their love. His transformation, fueled by her absence and his own reckoning, is a steady flame, but it's not yet the blaze that will bring them together in a Central Park wedding. We're tracing the path of their redemption, peeling back the layers to a time when Henry's search for Christine becomes a search for meaning, when his heart, once locked away, begins to guide him. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love deepened, the vows that bound them, all are still a future they can't imagine. Now, we're in a moment of quiet courage, when Henry steps into the unknown, driven by a love he's only beginning to understand. This is a story of a man chasing a ghost, of a woman whose presence lingers in every choice, of a love that reshapes him even as it eludes him. It's a crisp afternoon in New York, a few days after Henry's conversation with Maria at the community center, the city vibrant under a sky of fleeting blue. He's in a small, cluttered bookstore in the East Village, its shelves groaning with used paperbacks and the air thick with the scent of old pages and coffee. Henry's here on a hunch, following a lead from Christine's photographer friend, who mentioned she used to browse here for inspiration, flipping through art books she couldn't afford. His suit is out of place among the bohemian crowd, but his eyes are soft, searching, the photograph of Christine tucked in his coat pocket like a talisman. He's not the CEO today, he's just a man, looking for a trace of the woman who changed him, hoping for a clue to where she's gone. The bookstore is a maze of narrow aisles, its corners filled with readers lost in their own worlds. Henry moves slowly, his fingers brushing the spines of photography books, his heart heavy with the weight of her absence. He imagines Christine here, her camera slung over her shoulder, her eyes bright as she studied images of light and shadow. He picks up a book of street photography, flipping through its pages, and feels a pang. Her work, her vision, is so vivid in his mind, he can almost see her in every frame. A clerk, a young woman with a nose ring and a kind smile, notices his intensity. Looking for something specific, she asks. Henry hesitates, then pulls out the photograph, his voice low. I'm looking for someone. She used to come here. A photographer. Her name's Christine Harper. The clerk studies the photo, her brow furrowing, then shakes her head. Doesn't ring a bell, but we get a lot of artists. You could check the bulletin board, people leave notes there. Henry thanks her, moving to the board, a chaotic collage of flyers and messages. His eyes scan the faded papers, searching for anything, a name, a date, a hint. And then he sees it, a small, handwritten note, pinned among the clutter, advertising a photography workshop from months ago, led by C. Harper. His heart leaps, his fingers trembling as he pulls it free. The date is old, the workshop long over, but it's a piece of her, a sign she was here. He turns the note over, finding a doodle, a tiny star, like the charm on her bracelet. His breath catches, the bookstore fading as he clutches the note, a fragile thread to the woman he's lost. He asks the clerk for more, but she has nothing else, just a suggestion to check local art spaces. Henry nods, his resolve hardening. He's not giving up, not now, not ever. Outside, the city hums, its energy a contrast to the quiet storm in Henry's chest. He walks, the note in his pocket, his mind replaying every moment with Christine, the diner, the park, the gallery. Each memory is a lesson, a call to be better, to see the world as she does. He stops at a street corner, watching a vendor sell flowers, their colors vivid against the gray pavement. He buys a small bouquet of daisies, not for anyone but himself, a reminder of the beauty Christine captures, the beauty he's learning to see. He thinks of Maria's words, "Be the man she needed," and feels them guide him, a compass in the chaos. He's not searching just for Christine now, he's searching for the man he needs to be, the man who can stand beside her without fear. Henry's search takes him to a nearby art co-op, a gritty space filled with the hum of creativity. He shows the note to a volunteer, a lanky man with paint-stained hands, who recognizes Christine's name. "Yeah, she taught a workshop here," he says, his voice casual. "Real talent. Haven't seen her in a while, though. She said she was taking a break, heading upstate for some quiet." Henry's heart sinks, but the information is a spark, a direction. Upstate. It's vague, but it's something. He asks for more, but the man shrugs, offering only a website where Christine's work was once featured. Henry thanks him, stepping into the street, his phone already open to the site, his fingers scrolling through images, her images, raw and honest, each one a piece of her soul. He finds a photograph of a lone bench in a field, its simplicity piercing, and feels her presence so strongly it hurts. He saves the image, not to own it but to carry it, a reminder of the woman who's reshaping him. He writes another letter in his mind, words he'll never send, "I'm seeing the world through your eyes, Christine. I'm learning to be kind, to be open, to be enough." He visits a cafe she once mentioned, its walls lined with local art, and leaves a note with the barista, a simple message, "Christine, if you're here, I'm looking for you. I'm sorry. Henry." It's a long shot, but it's all he has, a gesture of faith in a love he's only beginning to understand. As dusk settles, Henry stands in Central Park, near the bench where Christine found him years ago. The air is cold, the leaves crunching under his feet, the city's lights a distant glow. He holds the daisies, the note, the photograph, and feels her absence like a physical ache. But he also feels hope, fragile but stubborn, like a seed pushing through concrete. He's not the man he was, not the CEO who hid from pain, not the man who let love pass him by. He's someone new, someone who's learning to see, to feel, to fight for what matters. He speaks to the empty bench, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "I'm coming for you, Christine. I'm becoming the man you deserve. Wait for me, just a little longer." How did this moment, this quiet search, lead to a love that would redeem them both? How did a man chasing a ghost find the strength to rebuild himself for a woman he may never reach? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a heart awakening, a soul finding its purpose, and a love that burns brighter against the odds. The dusk in Central Park softens, Henry's whispered vow to the empty bench fading into the city's restless pulse as we step further back, unraveling the love that would one day unite them in a wedding beneath those same trees. His search for Christine, fueled by a note with a star doodle and a bouquet of daisies, is a spark in a darkness he's learning to navigate, but it's not yet the light that will guide them home. We're tracing backward, peeling away the layers to a moment when Henry's journey becomes a pilgrimage, when his heart, scarred but open, seeks not just Christine but the truth of who he can be. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love ignited, the vows that bound them, all are still a horizon they can't see. Now, we're in a moment of quiet discovery, when Henry ventures beyond the city, chasing a whisper of her presence, and finds a piece of himself instead. This is a story of a man lost in longing, of a woman whose shadow shapes his every step, of a love that demands he face the world with new eyes before it can take root. It's a pale morning upstate, a few days after Henry's visit to the East Village bookstore, the air crisp with the scent of pine and frost. He's in a small town, a place of quiet streets and clapboard houses, far from the steel and glass of Manhattan. The lead from the art co-op volunteer, Christine heading upstate for some quiet, has brought him here, to a community art fair where her work might have surfaced. Henry's car, a sleek black sedan, looks out of place among the pickup trucks and bicycles, but he's not the CEO today. He's just a man, his coat dusted with road grit, the photograph of Christine in his pocket, her star-doodled note folded beside it. His eyes are tired but bright, driven by a hope that's both fragile and fierce, a belief that every step brings him closer to her, even if it's only in spirit. The art fair is modest, set up in a grassy field beside a community hall, its stalls draped with colorful banners, the air alive with laughter and the strum of a local band. Henry moves through the crowd, his presence quiet but purposeful, his eyes scanning for anything, a photograph, a name, a hint of Christine. He stops at a booth displaying local art, his heart catching at a black and white print of a frozen pond, its surface cracked but beautiful, the kind of image Christine would capture. The artist, an older man with weathered hands, notices his intensity. "You like that one?" he asks, his voice warm. Henry nods, his voice low. "It reminds me of someone. A photographer. Christine Harper. Have you heard of her?" The man shakes his head, but points to another booth. "Check with Lila. She knows everyone who passes through." Henry finds Lila, a woman with silver hair and a quick smile, arranging Polaroids on a table. He shows her the photograph of Christine, his voice steady but urgent. "I'm looking for her. She's a photographer, might have been here. Her name's Christine Harper." Lila studies the photo, her brow furrowing, then lights up. "Oh, Chrissy. She was here a few weeks ago, just for a day. Dropped off some prints, said she was clearing her head. Didn't stay long, said she was heading to another town, maybe Woodstock." Henry's heart leaps, the name a lifeline, a direction. He presses for more, but Lila has little else, just a memory of Christine's quiet smile and a print she left behind, a shot of a lone tree against a stormy sky, raw and haunting. Henry buys it, his hands trembling as he holds it, feeling her presence in every shadow, every line. The fair hums around him, but Henry's world narrows to the print, to the thought of Christine in Woodstock, seeking peace he couldn't give her. He thinks of her words in the gallery, "I can't be that girl again," and feels the weight of his failure, but also a spark of purpose. He's not just chasing her, he's chasing the man she needs, the man who can stand beside her without breaking her heart. He sits on a nearby bench, the print in his lap, and pulls out the star-doodled note, tracing its edges. He imagines her here, her camera capturing the fair's small joys, her eyes seeing what others miss. He speaks to the print, his voice a whisper in the wind. "I'm getting closer, Christine. I'm learning to be the man you saw, the man I want to be. Don't give up on me." Henry's search takes him deeper into the day, talking to vendors, showing the photograph, collecting fragments of Christine's presence. A young artist remembers her, saying she seemed tired but kind, sharing tips on light exposure before leaving. A food stall owner recalls her buying a coffee, her bracelet catching the sun. Each story is a piece of her, a map Henry's building in his heart. He drives to Woodstock, the road winding through hills that feel like another world, his mind replaying their moments, the diner, the park, the gallery. He stops at a gallery there, finding no trace of her, but leaves a note with his number, a plea, "Tell Christine Harper I'm looking for her. Tell her I'm sorry." It's a shot in the dark, but it's all he has, a gesture of faith in a love he's fighting for. As evening falls, Henry stands by a quiet stream, the water reflecting the last light of day. The print of the tree, the star note, the photograph of Christine, they're all with him, a constellation of hope and regret. He thinks of Maria, the therapist, Mia, all the voices urging him to change, to be better. He's not the man he was, not the CEO who hid from love, not the man who let her slip away. He's someone new, someone who sees the world through Christine's lens, who feels the weight of every choice. He kneels by the stream, dipping his fingers in the cold water, and speaks to her, his voice steady despite the ache. "I'm not giving up, Christine. I'm becoming someone you can trust, someone who sees you. I'll find you, even if it takes a lifetime." The stars emerge, their light faint but steady, and Henry feels her, not in the town or the gallery, but in his heart, in the man he's becoming. He doesn't know where she is, doesn't know that she's out there, wrestling with her own pain, her bracelet a reminder of a man she's afraid to hope for. But their paths are converging, their hearts beating in sync, the universe weaving their story with every step he takes. How did this moment, this pilgrimage upstate, lead to a love that would save them both? How did a man chasing a shadow find the courage to become the light she needed? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a soul awakening, a heart finding its way, and a love that refuses to fade. The quiet stream in Woodstock fades, its ripples carrying Henry's whispered promise as the stars above dissolve into the hum of a new moment, another step backward in the unraveling of a love destined for a Central Park wedding. His pilgrimage upstate, clutching Christine's photograph and a star-doodled note, has deepened his resolve, but the fire of their reunion is still a distant spark. We're tracing the path of their redemption, peeling back the layers to a time when Henry's search for Christine becomes a mirror for his own soul, when his heart, bruised but alive, pushes him to confront the world with her eyes. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love burned bright, the vows that bound them, all lie in a future they can't yet touch. Now, we're in a moment of fragile hope, when Henry's pursuit leads him to a discovery that shakes him, and Christine, unseen, begins to feel the pull of their shared past. This is a story of a man chasing redemption, of a woman whose heart stirs despite her fear, of a love that weaves them together even when they're worlds apart. It's a misty morning in a small upstate town, a few days after Henry's visit to the Woodstock Gallery, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke. He's in a community arts center, a converted barn with creaking floors and walls lined with local work, following another lead from Lila, the Polaroid vendor, who mentioned Christine might have passed through here. Henry's coat is rumpled, his face etched with the exhaustion of endless searching, but his eyes burn with a quiet fire, the photograph of Christine and her star-doodled note tucked close to his heart. He's not just looking for her, he's looking for the man he needs to be, the man who can stand beside her without casting a shadow. The barn is quiet, save for the murmur of a few artists setting up for a weekend showcase, and Henry moves through it like a ghost, his presence soft but searching. He stops at a display of photographs, his breath catching as he recognizes her style, raw, honest, capturing moments that pierce the soul. There's a print of a child's hand holding a dandelion, its seeds caught mid-flight, and another of an old woman laughing, her eyes crinkled with joy. The signature in the corner reads, C. Harper, and Henry's heart leaps, his fingers trembling as he touches the frame. A volunteer, a young woman with braided hair and a warm smile, notices his intensity. "Beautiful, aren't they?" she says. Henry nods, his voice tight. The photographer, Christine Harper. "Do you know her? Has she been here?" The volunteer's smile fades slightly, her eyes thoughtful. "She was here a couple of weeks ago, dropped off these prints for the showcase. Said she was traveling, needed to clear her head. Didn't say where she was going next, but she left something." She gestures to a small box under the table, labeled with Christine's name. Henry's pulse races as the volunteer retrieves the box, opening it to reveal a stack of Polaroids, each one a fleeting moment captured with Christine's unflinching eye, a cracked sidewalk blooming with weeds, a stray dog sleeping in sunlight, a man's silhouette against a sunset. Henry's breath catches at the last one, a blurry shot of a bench in Central Park, its occupant obscured but unmistakable. It's him, the man she found crying, the moment she gave him a tissue and changed his life. His hands shake as he holds it, the weight of their shared history crashing over him. "She kept this," he whispers, his voice breaking. The volunteer watches, her expression soft but curious. "You know her, don't you?" Henry nods, unable to speak, his eyes fixed on the Polaroid, a tangible piece of Christine's heart. The volunteer offers more, a notebook Christine left behind, its pages filled with sketches and notes about light, composition, and fleeting thoughts. Henry flips through it, finding a sentence scrawled in her handwriting, "Sometimes, kindness is the only thing that makes sense." His chest tightens, the words a mirror to the moment she sat with him in the park, to the diner where she listened without asking for anything. He asks to keep the Polaroid, offering to pay, but the volunteer waves him off. "Take it. It feels like it belongs to you." Henry thanks her, his voice thick, and leaves the barn, the Polaroid and notebook clutched close, a lifeline to the woman he's chasing and the man he's becoming. Outside, the mist clings to the hills, and Henry sits on a bench, the Polaroid in his hands, the notebook open beside him. He reads her words, sees her sketches, a star like the one on her bracelet, a tree like the one in her print, and feels her presence so strongly it hurts. He thinks of her pain in the gallery, her voice, "You forgot me," and vows to prove her wrong, to show her he's changed. He writes a note in the margins of her notebook, his pen trembling, "I see you now, Christine. I'm not the man I was. I'm trying to be the man you deserve." He doesn't know if she'll ever see it, but it's a promise, a piece of his heart left for her to find. Meanwhile, miles away, Christine is in another small town, her camera heavy around her neck, her heart heavier still. She's been running, not from Henry but from the hope he represents, the fear that love could hurt as much as it heals. She's in a cafe, flipping through her own notebook, one she started after leaving the arts center. She doesn't know Henry's been there, doesn't know he's holding her Polaroid, but she feels a pull, a quiet stirring in her chest. She touches her bracelet, the star charm warm against her skin, and thinks of him, his tears in the park, his voice in the gallery, his eyes that saw her when she felt invisible. She writes a single line, "What if he's different now?" It's not an answer, but it's a crack in her armor, a whisper of possibility. Henry drives back to the city, the Polaroid and notebook on the passenger seat, his heart a mix of ache and hope. He stops at every gallery, every art space, leaving notes with his number, his apology, his plea, "Christine, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm waiting." The city hums, its lights a constellation of chances, and Henry feels her, not in the towns or the prince, but in his soul, in the man he's becoming. He's not the man he was, not the CEO who hid from love, not the man who let her slip away. He's someone new, someone who sees the world through her lens, who fights for what matters. How did this moment, this discovery of her Polaroid, lead to a love that would redeem them both? How did a man chasing a memory find the strength to become the light she needed? Stay with me, because the story is unraveling, and every step backward reveals a heart breaking open, a soul finding its truth, and a love that burns brighter in the mist. The mist of the upstate art center clears, Henry's trembling hands clutching Christine's Polaroid and notebook fading into the quiet pulse of a final moment, the last thread in the tapestry of a love that began long before their Central Park wedding. His journey, through diners, parks, galleries, and small towns, has reshaped him, but the fire of their reunion is still a spark waiting to ignite. We've traced backward, peeling away the layers of their redemption, and now we arrive at the genesis, the moment when their paths first crossed, when a single act of kindness set their hearts on a collision course. The apartment they'd share, the gala where their love flared, the vows that bound them, all are a future yet to unfold. This is the beginning, a story of two strangers whose fleeting connection planted a seed that would grow through pain, loss, and hope, into a love that would save them both. It's a rainy night in New York, 5 years before the wedding, the city draped in a sheen of wet light, its streets alive with the rhythm of umbrellas and hurried steps. Christine, just 19, is in a rundown diner, her apron stained from a late shift, her hands raw from washing dishes. She's nobody in this city, a girl from a small town, orphaned and scraping by, her dreams of photography tucked into a second-hand camera she can't afford to repair. The diner is nearly empty, its neon sign flickering, the air heavy with the smell of grease and coffee. Christine's exhausted, her heart bruised from a life that's never been kind, but her eyes still search for beauty, for something to hold on to. She's about to clock out, her shift dragging into the early hours, when the door swings open, and a man stumbles in, soaked and shattered. It's Henry, though she doesn't know his name, doesn't know he's Henry Lancaster, a man whose world has just collapsed. He's 27, a rising star in the corporate world, but tonight he's nothing, a man left at the altar by his fiancée, Rebecca, his heart a raw wound. His suit is drenched, his face pale, his eyes red from tears he can't stop. He slumps into a booth, his shoulders hunched, his hands trembling as he stares at nothing. The diner's other waitress, a gruff woman named Dot, mutters about drunks and ignores him, but Christine can't look away. She sees his pain, recognizes it as her own, the kind that makes the world feel too heavy, too cruel. She hesitates, her own scars urging her to keep her distance, but something stronger pulls her forward, a quiet courage she doesn't fully understand. She approaches his booth, her steps soft, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey, you okay?" Henry looks up, startled, his eyes meeting hers, and for a moment, the world stills. Her gaze is unguarded, kind, not asking for anything, just seeing him. He shakes his head, his voice hoarse. "No. I'm not." Christine nods, not pushing, and slides into the booth across from him, her apron crinkling. She doesn't know why she's doing this, why this stranger's pain feels like her own, but she stays, her presence a silent offering. "You don't have to talk," she says, "but I'm here." Her words are simple, but they're a lifeline, cutting through the fog of his despair. They sit in silence, the rain tapping against the diner's windows, the only sound between them the clink of a coffee cup as Christine pours him a mug he doesn't touch. Henry's hands fidget, and he pulls something from his pocket, a small silver bracelet with a star charm, a gift he bought for Rebecca, now a bitter reminder of his failure. He stares at it, his fingers tightening, then looks at Christine, her face soft in the diner's harsh light. "I don't need this anymore," he says, his voice breaking, and slides it across the table. "Take it. Someone should have it." Christine blinks, surprised, her fingers brushing the star charm. "I can't," she starts, but he shakes his head, insistent. "Please. It's nothing to me now." She hesitates, then takes it, slipping it into her pocket, her heart stirring with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. They talk, haltingly at first, not about his pain or her struggles, but about small things, the rain, the city, the way the diner's coffee always tastes burnt. Christine shares a story about a stray cat she feeds, her voice light but honest, and Henry manages a faint smile, the first in days. She doesn't ask his name, doesn't need to, she sees him, not his wealth or his title, just a man who's hurting. He doesn't ask hers, too lost in his grief to think beyond the moment. But as the rain slows, Henry feels something shift, a crack in the darkness, a warmth he can't name. "Thank you," he says, his voice thick, "for this." Christine shrugs, her smile shy but real. "Sometimes, kindness is all we've got." He leaves, the diner's door swinging shut behind him, the rain swallowing his figure as he disappears into the night. Christine watches him go, her fingers brushing the bracelet in her pocket, a strange ache in her chest. She doesn't know who he is, doesn't know that he's Henry Lancaster, a man whose life will circle back to hers. She doesn't know that this moment, this simple act of sitting with a stranger, will change them both forever. She slips the bracelet onto her wrist, the star charm catching the diner's light, and feels a spark of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, the world isn't as cruel as it seems. She clocks out, stepping into the rain, her camera heavy in her bag, her heart a little lighter. Henry, walking through the city, feels the weight of his pain ease, if only slightly. He doesn't know her name, doesn't know she'll find him again in Central Park, offering a tissue when he's broken once more. But her kindness lingers, a seed planted in his heart, a light he'll carry through the years of ambition and isolation. The city hums around them, its lights a constellation of beginnings, and though they're strangers now, their paths are already entwined, their story written in the rain, the star charm, the quiet of a diner booth. This is where it begins, where a girl with nothing but a camera and a man with everything but hope find each other in the dark. How did this moment, this fleeting kindness, lead to a love that would redeem them? How did two strangers, bound by a bracelet and a shared silence, find their way to a wedding in Central Park? The story has unraveled, its threads laid bare, revealing a truth that breaks and mends in the same breath, love begins in the smallest acts, grows through pain and choice, and blooms when two hearts, broken but brave, dare to see each other. And so, we end where it all began, in a diner under the rain, where Christine and Henry, without knowing it, started the journey that would lead them home. Then takes it, slipping it into her pocket, her heart stirring with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. They talk, haltingly at first, not about his pain or her struggles, but about small things, the rain, the city, the way the diner's coffee always tastes burnt. Christine shares a story about a stray cat she feeds, her voice light but honest, and Henry manages a faint smile, the first in days. She doesn't ask his name, doesn't need to, she sees him, not his wealth or his title, just a man who's hurting. He doesn't ask hers, too lost in his grief to think beyond the moment. But as the rain slows, Henry feels something shift, a crack in the darkness, a warmth he can't name. "Thank you," he says, his voice thick, "for this." Christine shrugs, her smile shy but real. Sometimes, kindness is all we've got. He leaves, the diner's door swinging shut behind him, the rain swallowing his figure as he disappears into the night. Christine watches him go, her fingers brushing the bracelet in her pocket, a strange ache in her chest. She doesn't know who he is, doesn't know that he's Henry Lancaster, a man whose life will circle back to hers. She doesn't know that this moment, this simple act of sitting with a stranger, will change them both forever. She slips the bracelet onto her wrist, the star charm catching the diner's light, and feels a spark of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, the world isn't as cruel as it seems. She clocks out, stepping into the rain, her camera heavy in her bag, her heart a little lighter. Henry, walking through the city, feels the weight of his pain ease, if only slightly. He doesn't know her name, doesn't know she'll find him again in Central Park, offering a tissue when he's broken once more. But her kindness lingers, a seed planted in his heart, a light he'll carry through the years of ambition and isolation. The city hums around them, its lights a constellation of beginnings, and though they're strangers now, their paths are already entwined, their story written in the rain, the star charm, the quiet of a diner booth. This is where it begins, where a girl with nothing but a camera and a man with everything but hope find each other in the dark. How did this moment, this fleeting kindness, lead to a love that would redeem them? How did two strangers, bound by a bracelet and a shared silence, find their way to a wedding in Central Park? The story has unraveled, its threads laid bare, revealing a truth that breaks and mends in the same breath. Love begins in the smallest acts, grows through pain and choice, and blooms when two hearts, broken but brave, dare to see each other. And so, we end where it all began, in a diner under the rain, where Christine and Henry, without knowing it, started the journey that would lead them home.